Welcome into our Backyard Brothers podcast. Week one is in the books for college football, and that's what we're going to be talking about mainly today. Is some college football reactions. Now, when you're in a week one situation, every reaction is an overreaction. Every single one. Doesn't matter if it's under or over. Uh, and and so we're going to be talking about that a little bit and seeing what the other two of us think. Is that really an overreaction? And here's kind of why. And so I'm hoping that we all kind of came with a couple of thoughts for college football, and we'll see how that goes. Next week we'll do the same thing with NFL after week one for NFL is over. So anyone want to particularly start?
Yes, I would, and I think it's what everyone would be thinking about. Everyone is talking about Colorado in prime time. Everyone, and I think that they should be. Um, Deion Sanders is possibly the most iconic, well, arguably the most iconic figure in football. And he went to Jackson State. He coached. I think he had like a 28-5 record or something like there. And then brought his son and basically the entire team to Colorado. And a lot of people have been saying this team is still going to suck. Other people saying they're going to do great. Well, then they had their first chance to go up against the runner-up in the national championship, number 17 TCU, and they beat them 45-42. And so my thoughts after watching that game, it was a really fun game to watch. First off, it was a really fun game. Shador Sanders is insane, throwing for 510 passing yards, and Travis Hunter is probably at the top of the Heisman candidate right now, with 119 receiving yards and 2 interceptions. One of them being probably the best interception I've seen in my entire life. Um, but the defense also allowed 42 points, and so I guess I wonder. My reaction when I first see that is, being a Utah fan, is we got another team to worry about now in the Pac-12. We have another team to worry about. I think that this team has everything that it needs to automatically fight for the Pac-12 championship already. I think this team has what it takes to play against USC, Oregon, Washington, Utah. Of course, we're going to see a little bit more today once they play Nebraska. But that's my immediate reaction when I saw the game: is okay. Prime time is not messing around, and he has some playmakers.
I mean, I think.
So I'll jump in.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Dustin. No, you go.
I'm gonna call major overreaction on that. So yeah, Colorado played great, but they had 3 months to prepare for this game. They had months to prepare for this game against TCU, and TCU is a very different team than they were last year. A lot of players gone, a lot of new players. It's a very different team, and he had months to prepare. And I think anybody who's a good coach, you give him months to prepare, can really put a great game plan together in order to defeat any other team. So what are they going to do playing Nebraska when he had 6 days to prepare? So I expect Colorado to be a good team, but I don't expect them to be a immediate Pac-12 contender or a making runs at national champions, thing like that. I expect them to end up having a slightly better than mediocre season, maybe at 7 wins, 8 wins, something like that. I think based off of one game that his entire goal was to shock the world. His entire goal was to make a statement. You can't prepare like that 12 times again. It's just not gonna. It doesn't work that way.
I agree with that overreaction setting. TCU had 9 starters that are no longer playing from last year, and I think the 2 starters that were on the offensive line. And so all of their weapons are gone, most of them to the NFL, and there's no telling where TCU is. TCU may finish the season 6-6. This may not be a good TCU team. That's one thing to look at. Yes, they were the runner-up, but that was last year. We don't know how good or how bad they are this year. Maybe this is a really poor team this year. We don't know. And secondly, I mean, Cody, you said they allowed 42 points to to TCU, and maybe again that's a good team, but we don't know yet. And you look at the rest of their schedule, and I'm on board with Dustin. I'm projecting their record to be 8-4 this year, which is good. It's a good season, especially where Colorado was last year. They're a bowl team, but they're not going to beat USC. I just don't see them beating USC. I don't even see them beating Oregon, uh, and that one's in Eugene. And so I think they're losing those two games. I think they, um, I think they lose at UCLA, and I think they lose at Utah at the end of the season. I think those four games they lose. They could win the other ones, but that's just a projection. Again, that's a really good season and better than a lot of people thought that Colorado might be. And so maybe it's kind of between an overreaction and hey, I think this team is good, but it's certainly not a Pac-12 contending team. I don't think yet. Come back and talk to me if they beat USC. So
I have one
Yeah,
rebuttal.
the only other thing.
Sorry, I
The
have
only
one
other thing I
rebuttal.
would add is sorry. The only thing I would add is in order for a player to win the Heisman, your team has to win 10, 11, 12 games. And I don't see that happening. So nobody from Colorado is winning the Heisman.
So my only rebuttal to what you had said earlier, Dustin, about Colorado having 3 months to prepare, TCU had 3 months to prepare as well. And so, I mean, I guess it's not Colorado wasn't the only team to be like, okay, we got 3 months to prepare. TCU is like, okay, we got Colorado. Prime time's coming. We know what to expect. They have Shador Sanders. They knew what they had with the team they had. They've been able to watch all that tape. They didn't watch any of the Colorado last year because that wasn't the same team. So they're watching a lot of Jackson State. They're watching a lot of prime time. So they had 3 months to prepare as well. And so I guess what's your thought to that?
I think
I would say, go ahead.
I think it's easier for Colorado to prepare for TCU than for TCU to prepare for Colorado. Because you're looking at Sonny Dykes. You're looking at TCU system. It's going to be the exact same as it was last year. You don't know that for sure for Colorado looking at Jackson State. New players, plus you have all these transfer portal guys. That was the big thing for Colorado. So I don't think TCU had any idea what exactly Colorado was going to do on offense, but Colorado had an almost exact idea what TCU was going to do because of the system that Sonny Dykes was running. That's what I think.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'd say the same thing, and then just that TCU is preparing for an entire season. I think Primetime was preparing for game one in order to make a statement.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now, being in Colorado and being near Boulder, that the everyone's on Cody's train right over here. Everyone thinks that Colorado is going to win the national championship this year. That's what's going on over in Boulder. Is that prime time all the way up to number one? They're going to beat Georgia in the national championship game. That's what everyone thinks over here. So
Okay, they definitely don't think it's the national championship team, but until proven otherwise, as of right now, they're a Pac-12 contender in my mind.
I have one, and this is just based on, and I know immediately I'm saying this as an overreaction. It's not necessarily what I believe, but looking at week one, Michael Penix is winning the Heisman Trophy. Washington quarterback. He was so good in that game last week. He was already on a he was already what do you call it? Like a Heisman front runner, maybe. I don't even know if that's true, but so Washington quarterback Michael Penix is going to win the Heisman Trophy. Anyway, that's what. And let me go through. Excuse me. Against Boise State, right? Who's a good team. He threw for 450 yards and 5 touchdown passes without an interception. Was 72% completion percentage. And then if that wasn't enough, uh, you know, this guy can also run the ball. He didn't run the ball at all against Boise State. I think he had 2 carries for less than 0 yards. And so uh, he can run the ball too, but he decided to, I'll just throw for 5 touchdowns. He's already the Heisman. He's in the Heisman discussion, but I'm thinking Michael Penix from Washington is winning the Heisman, and Washington is going to the Pac-12 championship game, not Utah. It's going to be USC versus Washington in that Pac-12 championship.
As you said, everything in week one is an overreaction.
Yeah.
And so he obviously had a great showing, as did Shitter Sanders and Hunter, right? And so yeah, I would imagine that since he's already been in that candidacy, he'll stay there. But I think USC quarterback Caleb Williams, it's his to lose again.
And he's had 2 great games already too. So in week 0 and week 1.
Yeah, Penix, yeah, he's been on the talk of that, so I think he's going to stay in the talk throughout the season, most likely. So will Caleb Williams. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to win it, just because it's been what is it? I think Archie Griffin or something was the last one to win back to back. So the history is against it happening. So many players can have seasons that break out. I mean, I know it's basically mainly a quarterback award, but there's also sometimes where a receiver like Devontae Smith or maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. could have a chance to win this season. So there's a lot of people to look at. My reaction, first off, to that is Boise State is a good team, but TCU, in my opinion, is a better team than Boise State. And the fact that Shedeur Sanders threw for 510 yards and 5 touchdown passes against TCU, he had a better week than Michael Penix Jr. That's just my reaction to that.
Yeah, except TCU was always, I mean, TCU plays Big 12 offense, which means everyone scores 40 points in the Big 12. And that's not necessarily the case in the Pac-12, although it's seeming to hedge that way when Oregon scores 81 last week. But still, it's college football's defense only exists in SEC and Big Ten, it seems like. And so I'm not really sure that defense exists anywhere else in the country. But so.
All right. My game for a reaction on LSU and Florida State, right? This is one of the only big matchups where 2 ranked teams played in week 1, and Florida State put the whomping on, right? Yeah, absolutely dominated. So the question of reaction over reaction, whenever 2 similar ranked teams play, and usually I'm saying, hey, whatever their result, they should probably stay fairly close in ranking because these are 2 great teams, whatever it is. But obviously Florida State absolutely dominated. So a lot of the talk this week is LSU in trouble? Are they going towards a losing season? They came in with high hopes, being a top 10 ranked team. Are they headed towards a terrible season? My reaction is no. This is one game against a fantastic team. But yeah, it punched him in the mouth, but a fantastic team. And you don't have to be the best team in the country. You just got to be the best team in the stadium. And so LSU has a lot of opportunities to be the best team and still win 9, 10, 11 games if they're able to regroup and do so. Your thoughts, your reactions?
100% agree. I don't think anyone should be concerned. Obviously, in college football, you lose one game, it's a problem. It used to be, at least, when only the top 2 teams win the national championship game. SEC is a little easier to lose a game and still qualify. I really don't think that LSU needs to be that concerned. If they lose today against Grambling State, then talk to me. But I don't think they're in trouble yet.
I was just going to say FSU is a good team. They have another possible Heisman candidate at quarterback, George Travis. Who's really good at what he did too. So, I mean, they're both really good teams, and when one good team loses to another good team, it's not a big problem. When it's by 20-something points, I can see a lot of concern, but I would agree with you both that it's an overreaction. I think that week one, a lot of teams are kind of shaking off rust, trying to figure out their schemes, trying to get everyone communicating a little bit better. And FSU may have just had that little bit more dialed up than LSU, and LSU could have just kind of lost some confidence and kind of started freaking out. What do we do now? What do we do now? And it probably put them in a spin. So I'd say it's no reaction. I think the LSU is probably going to be okay.
I have another one, unless Cody, we're just going in this order.
I have two others, but you might have another one of mine. But you go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
No, you're up, Cody.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about Notre Dame. Notre Dame looks really good. They played. I mean, they played Navy, and who was that first or the other game?
Middle Tennessee, I
State.
think.
So, I mean, not great competition, but they did look really good. Sam Hartman looks really good. Something that I've been thinking about is this Notre Dame team led by Coach Williams, I think his name is. The coach, I'm not sure what his name is anymore. Martin, something like that. The coach for Notre Dame. This Notre Dame team, is this team have the talent to be able to play for a national championship?
Marcus Freeman, Cody.
They may
Marcus
have
Freeman.
they may have the talent, but I don't think they have the schedule, the strength of schedule. They just how can you present that resume at the end of the season when you're going to play, one, two, maybe three ranked teams your entire schedule? Could have a few more, just depending on how it shakes out. If they go undefeated, then yeah, sure, they should be there. But if they have one or two losses, no, they just don't have the resume.
Well, Dustin, they do play Ohio State this year, and they do play USC. And so both of those are at home. I don't know what that really means, but they're both in South Bend. Other than that, though, their only other two ranked opponents are Clemson, who just got thumped by the other team they have on their schedule, Duke. So, and both of those are on the road. And so, who knows how good Duke is? Maybe that's another overreaction to talk about, because Duke just lit up Clemson in that game. But I think the schedule is there for Notre Dame to do it. The problem with Notre Dame is that they're an independent, and so there's no conference championship. So essentially, you have to go undefeated if you're Notre Dame in order to go to the national championship, because otherwise, you have that championship week, and everyone's looking at the SEC championship, the Big Ten championship, and the winners go, and Notre Dame is left out unless they're undefeated. So that's why Notre Dame needs to get into a conference, because otherwise they're not gonna. They have to go undefeated to qualify.
Yeah, I was just looking at the schedule. Yeah, Ohio State, USC, Clemson, Duke, and then obviously several Power Five opponents. And I think today will probably be a good look at what this team really looks like. They're going to be on the road against NC State, who has potential to be a really good team. And so I think Ohio State was a little underwhelming last week. But if Notre Dame is able to especially beat at least the ranked teams, I think even an 11-1 season, it would be hard to deny them, depending on what other teams in the country are, what they're looking like. But I agree, at 12-0, I feel like that you can't deny
them. Okay, Dustin, is it your turn or is it my turn? I can't remember who's first.
Your turn.
Okay. Speaking of Ohio State, they're in trouble. This obviously CJ Stroud goes to the NFL, 2 years of throwing like 80 touchdown passes or something like that, however many he threw over those 2 years. And they go into to Bloomington, Indiana there, and they score 23 points. They win. Their defense looks good, but it's against Indiana, who hasn't been historically good. So my thought, and then Ohio State drops to two rankings in the polls last week. But that was my thought that if Ohio State's scoring 23 points against Indiana, they're going to be in trouble when they go up against Penn State and Wisconsin and the other ones, Michigan in particular. So that's what I thought is Ohio State's in trouble. Was it just one game, or is that a harbinger of things to come?
Like you said, week one is full of overreactions. Usually your week one is where you want to show your fans that you've got what it takes to have a winning season, and they didn't do that. It's kind of your show out game, right? And so yeah, it could be a little scary. There's probably a lot of nervous people up in Ohio. But we'll have to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, like I said, they were underwhelming. Obviously today they should win by 50, 60. If they don't, then it's also underwhelming. Playing Youngstown State. I don't even know where that's at. But
Ohio.
oh, there you go. Probably why they
Youngstown,
play each other.
Ohio.
Mhm.
I've never even heard of that place, so there you go. Yeah, but yes, overreactions. Kyle McCord didn't look too great to me. I know that Ryan Day just said this week, the quarterback competition's back open. And yeah, I don't know, it's so hard to go off of that. Indiana, I thought they had a really good defense, I thought. And maybe that's what it was. I don't know. We'll have to see as well, but it could have just been Ohio State's offense sputtering, but Indiana's defense looked really good. But yeah, I would agree that the way they played, they're going to have some rough days ahead with especially Michigan, Penn State.
All right, my turn. No specific team in particular, but a lot of these top tier teams that scored 50, 60, 70, Oregon scored 80 points in their opening game, right? Just kind of want to get a general feel reaction on, a team like Oregon scoring 80 points. I think Oklahoma scored 28 in the first quarter, things like that. To the opposite of what Ohio State did they show out? Did they put up a banner that says, "Hey, we're powerful, we're strong"? And then kind of the second question is, when you're playing a small team that you pay that team to come and play you, right? You say, "Hey, school, we're going to pay you millions of dollars to come and play us," and then you're going to score 60, 70, 80 points on them. Is when it comes to, I guess, the thought of competition in college football, do you have any thoughts on that reaction over reaction where I'm just like, "Hey, man, take it easy"?
I'll go
So
first.
two questions there.
Yeah, I'll go first real quick. First off, I'd say I think it's hard to score 80 points no matter who you're playing. And that's impressive in my opinion. Doesn't matter if you're playing.
I did it in Madden all the time.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. In that case, it's got to be easy. But no, so I think that shows, well, and especially Oklahoma, in my opinion, because Arkansas State, they're technically a Group of Five team. They're not even FCS. They're a Group of Five team, and so to me that's impressive. 70 something to 0. Oregon against Portland State. Portland State's an FCS team, but again, still it's hard to score 80 points in a game. So that is impressive to me. And so yes, I do think they are powerful teams. As far as scheduling and things like that, my opinion, especially as we go into a 12-team playoff next year, is that I think I guess you can say power four teams at that point, need to probably schedule more conference games, and then the non-conference games, the two or whatever they are going to be against power four opponents. That's just the best way for them to get into the playoff at that point. So that's just I think the way the school should be thinking. If you're going to play a team like that, I mean, I guess if I was a no name school, I'd be like, I'll take $5 million. I don't care what you do to me though, kind of thing. But in my opinion, that at least going forward, I think teams need to shift their focus to just playing power teams that are power teams, which may take away from a lot of other stuff. I don't know, but I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that too.
I'm fine with them not scheduling against FCS teams. I don't like those cupcake games, but if you're saying only play Power Five, then why do we even have Group of Five teams? Like they should be their own leagues if they're never going to play each other. So I do not like that. I think that Group of Five and Power Five need to play each other. Otherwise, there's no reason why they need to be in the same league. Uh, and so yeah, you need to play Toledo. You need to play um, Boise State. Even Boise State's not a power team. Um, and and you're cutting out teams like that have had good seasons like San Diego State and things like that. So they need to play those teams. You need to have non-conference schedule because it all non-conference schedule goes into uh, the um, the committee's ideas as well. And so I think they need to have those. I'm fine with cutting out the cupcake games, but I don't know if there's a reason why they have it every year if they're required to pay a cupcake team to come play them. If they are, then that's what it is. But I would be fine cutting those out.
Um, any other thoughts on that, or back to me, I guess? Um, well, here's an overreaction from a fan. Okay, so it's probably gonna be a little bit biased too. So I'm excited to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this. Utah played Florida last Thursday, August 31st. They played Baylor today, but they played Florida. Florida um, came to Utah SEC team. First time Utah had ever had an SEC team there, so that was groundbreaking there. Um, Utah beat them 24-11 with five of their main starters out. Cam Rising, probably a top 15 QB in the league. Brant Keithy, top five, maybe tight end in the league. Junior Tafuna, Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. Connor O'Toole, who is probably Utah's best edge rusher, and then Karina Reed, who is a all-conference linebacker as well. So with those five out, they still managed to keep them to 3 points until the fourth quarter, and then 11 points, overall. So in my mind, with those players out, Utah was still able to beat an SEC team, probably a middle of a road SEC team. At least last year they were, 24-11. This team looks really good if they're able to do that with five of their best players not even playing.
And that's a fair reaction. Yeah, they played well enough to win without a lot of their players. Um, in the college football era when, your score 30, 40, 50 points is now standard almost to win. But when you're scoring 24 points, it's kind of a ho-hum win. Unless maybe I don't know what Utah's identity is going to be this year when they have everyone back. I don't know if they're going to be that 40, 50 points a game score or if they're going to be defense all the time. And so we're going to see Utah's been traditionally a defensive team for the last many, many years. And so if they stay that way and they hold an SEC team like Florida to 11 points, then I like Utah's chances. But if they're gonna only score 24 points, they're gonna have problems against USC and Oregon in particular. So it just depends what they look like when everyone's back.
Yeah, I don't think it's an overreaction, but I also think that if they played an SEC team and it was Kentucky or Vanderbilt, you wouldn't be thinking the same thing, right? We're thinking Florida is this powerhouse because they have national titles under their belt 15, 20 years ago. What their team is like now, you called a middle road. That's probably a fair assessment. But yes, I think it was an impressive win. Good job to Coach Witt. But yeah, when all those players come back, nobody's 100%, and so you're going to be putting guys out there that are more injury prone or a little bit raw, not quite honed in because they haven't had the experience with practice and other things like that. And so I think it's going to take a lot of great coaching and a lot of good things in order to make Utah a team that competes for the Pac-12, just because they have the uphill battle getting healthy and getting these players reacclimated. But it was a statement win. They did exactly what they wanted to do. Great statement win.
Yeah, I'm just thinking based on Cam Rising's injury history. Uh, do you feel comfortable having Bryson Barnes go in and play USC?
Not USC, no, no. We need to have Cam Rising back by UCLA conference play, and so that's my thought. If we don't have Cam Rising back, then we might be screwed in conference play, but we'll see.
Last one from me. Shifting over to SEC, I want to put Tennessee up as a contender in the SEC. They handed it to Virginia at home last week. Virginia is not a great team, but Tennessee was great last year. They look just as good this year. They lost their quarterback to the NFL, but their new quarterback, trying to remember a name right now, but I think he's a transfer too. But I like Tennessee to really have a chance against Georgia later on the season. I think that's going to be a great game. They play Georgia second to last game of the year. Before that, they have to play Alabama and Texas A&M. I can see Tennessee winning 2 of those 3 games, and I like what they look like, and I think I talked about them back in our college football preview as a possible contender to upset and upset the balance of power in the SEC and kind of go to a championship game, if not win it in the SEC. And I remain that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Go ahead, Dustin. Sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it an overreaction. I think it's fair. They played good, and last year they beat Alabama, right? And that was kind of their statement win, and really helped them. And I think it really helped them with the transfer portal and recruiting this year, and in beefing that up and getting ready for a great season this year. So I don't think you're wrong that they're poised to make a run at the SEC championship. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see that balance of power shifted, because if they're going up, somebody else has to go down. Who is it going to be? Maybe it's LSU based on those overreactions there. So we'll see.
I agree. Not an overreaction. They were good last year. They did lose. I'm not sure how many starters they lost, but they lost Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt. Probably the main 2 reasons they beat Alabama last year. And so Virginia, at least as of in recent memory, hasn't ever been too great of a team. So it didn't surprise me that they put up 49 points against them. So it wasn't like, oh my goodness, they're wow, kind of reaction to me. I do expect them to be good. But beating Georgia, it'll be at home for them. Beating Georgia, it's possible. I just don't know if it'll happen. I think it's not an overreaction. I don't think they're a national championship contender yet. They might be an SEC contender.
Okay, Dustin, do you have one more to bring us home? If not, that's fine.
I don't have any more. We can move on to Cody.
Anyone else have any others, or are we done for the day? Because I don't have any more either. So, okay.
I mean, we already talked a little bit about Duke and Clemson, so we're okay there.
Okay.
We can finish it up with a overreaction: Lions versus Chiefs.
I want to talk about that real quick. Yes. So I want to brag a little bit here. Because back in our NFL preview, I said, and I quote, "The Chiefs are in trouble with their wide receivers." And both of you said, "Nah, they're okay. Patrick Mahomes can throw to a 12-year-old girl. It'll be okay." And then Travis Kelce goes out, and what happens? Patrick Mahomes puts the ball exactly where it needs to go. It goes off Tony's hands into Brian Branch, who returns it for a touchdown. And so I say Chiefs are in trouble with their wide receivers. So
I just want to say I don't think Kadarius Toney has a job right now. So
he's cleaning out the outhouse.
Yeah, well, so I following that a little closely. He's deactivated. Kadarius Toney's deactivated his Twitter. He's deactivated his social media. He's hiding. There's been some really bad posts that says that Dan Campbell presented the game ball to Kadarius Toney. Thanking him for the win, things like that. And it's sad watching the game that, Mahomes, several receivers, not just Tony, but several receivers, Mahomes hit them in the face or the chest or the hands and they dropped it. There's multiple drops that absolutely would have blown that game away. And so, so maybe should we overreact to the Chiefs losing? Maybe, unless they could get some training and some changes in there.
Yeah.
So my quick thought I want to add there was definitely a lot of fault on the receivers, and they probably would have won had the receivers actually made some of those plays. But I also want to say Patrick Mahomes didn't really look like himself either. He had a lot of bad throws as well. He had some missed attempts, and it looked kind of like that the defense was getting to him. I don't think he got sacked once though, but it looked like they were getting in his head a little bit. He had some missed throws. So I'm not saying it was on Patrick Mahomes, but it mostly was on the receivers, but it wasn't all on them. There were some bad throws by Patrick Mahomes.
I think
So then,
go ahead, Dustin.
well, I was going to change topic a little bit. So if you have more on that.
Well, yeah, the only thing I was going to rebut of that is that Patrick Mahomes had a great first half, and then the second half kind of fell off. But I think there were 5 drop passes, and 4 of them were by Tony. But the other one, I think he had a running back drop one, and maybe even another receiver drop one too. But and as we would talk about the Chiefs losing that game, but we also got to give a little bit of props to the Lions defense and the Lions running game and offensive line that put that game away. So
yeah, that's what I was going to talk about is the running game for the Lions absolutely is what did it in the second half. And so I was thinking maybe Chris Jones is going to get his contract signed this week because he's on holdout asking for a lot more money. And so maybe he gets that signed as they say, hey, we got blasted in the run game. So.
Yep. Okay. Well, we'll have more of a overreaction next week for NFL. May or may not include this topic as well as we go forward. But thanks for being in, and we'll talk to you next week.